Hello YouTube, welcome one, welcome all to part 6 of our 30 band Royal Rumble extravaganza, where we are now 1/5 of our way through this extravagant and very auspicious occasion for entry number 6 on his way. And let's just get straight to it, ladies and gentlemen. I just can't wait. So let's get that countdown timer up in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and... Hold up. I wonder whose smart idea was it to have this thing turn all the way down, so let's try that again. Woo indeed. Okay there, ladies and gentlemen, that was Head First for Halos by My Chemical Romance. Wow. Well. Any time, ladies and gentlemen, we ever get to talking about anything on I Brought You My Bullets, Now You Bring Me Your Love, because I've ever since like I started first listening to Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, all the way up to Black Parade, and including True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys. Their first album was almost something I absolutely just kind of like never really heard anybody really talk about. And I kept thinking to myself, like, why the hell does nobody ever want to talk about this album? Because if Headfirst for Halos is anything to go by, then stuff like I think we've done Vampires before, but I know we've done Honey, This Mirror Ain't Big Enough. Demolition Lovers, absolutely, as we've done before. Because when you see MCR at their very, very best, you don't just get Gerard Way, literally, I call it singing, but it's like he's pouring his heart out. And it's just like everyone else. They're not so much playing as you hear Ray Toro, Frank Iero, Mikey, and Wes Matt. You don't hear them so much play music. You hear them opening themselves up for the whole world to hear. Which, in fact, I think Frank was... didn't Frank Iero come in a lot later on my... thinking about my... Oh, actually, I'll tell you what. We'll just for this, we'll check out to see where exactly Frank Iero was... Frank Iero, let's see. When exactly did he come into MCR? Because I know it was like but backup vocalist. Okay, that kind of makes sense, I suppose. But now listen, if you guys have actually a new, sort of like relatively new to My Chemical Romance, I'm gonna give you like a little bit of sort of like a little bit of a rundown here. They are it's a sort of like an alternative group, an alternative rock group from New Jersey, and Gerard Way has stated numerous times that he saw a dead clown in a park one day, and I'm beginning now to suspect that's where Gerard Way's kind of sadistic and almost humorous, funny, not very funny outlook on the world is sort of like come from. It isn't so much like the Joker's sense of humor, but it's more like he knows that he's kind of like a self-aware sort of Joker. That's who Frank Iero is. No, Gerard Way. He knows fine well what's going on is crazy, and yes, he does kind of like embrace it, but he's more than open and honest that things are not okay, if you want to put it like that. And speaking of not okay, the song itself, Headfirst for Halos, is, many things aside, it's primarily about suicide. And while I do think it's very, very unique for there to be, well, not just a song, but an MCR song to be this fast-paced and to be this kind of optimistic about suicide of all things. But I think, strangely enough, there's a very, very significant reason for this, and this one is purely theoretical, but I want to hear what you guys are going to think about this, because here's the idea that I've literally come up with in the spur of like the last few moments. They play it to be jumpy, they play it to be relaxing, but then Ray and Mikey, they start going a little bit slower, and it's a little bit softer than before, and it's meant to be a little bit more, how should we say, relaxing. And I half feel as if, like, if you've ever contemplated or ever thought about the subject of suicide before, and then all of a sudden, it plays to be this soft and relaxing, and I think it's almost like to say, even if you're very, very uncomfortable around the subject of suicide, what MCR have sort of done is that they've, in a strange way, kind of like forced their audience to kind of like accept that this subject matter exists, and just to put it in another way like this, is that once you come to accept that suicide is a very real thing in the very real world that affects many, many real people, you're obliged, as it were, to come to terms with it. And once you've come to terms with it, you begin to realise that it's not as doom and gloom as it sounds. maybe it's not for you. Maybe you're not feeling depressed or suicidal at this moment, but that doesn't mean someone else isn't. And maybe this sort of thing isn't really for you if you're really particularly prone and sensitive to this sort of material. But this type of music to people who are troubled throughout all of the world is one of the things why MCR are still being talked about to this day. They make music that also helps a lot of very, very troubled people. I mean, I started first listening to MCR when I was about 12 years old, and when I turned 13, the Black Parade was almost like a lifeline, where all of a sudden, because I think it's people like bash groups like Simple Plan for being very teenagerish sort of songs, and how they talk about the struggles and the difficulties, but that's the sort of thing, it's true, and everybody goes through those sort of difficulties with their bodies changing and all that. I certainly find it a little bit more my sort of thing than, let's say, Big Mouth, when they talk about, adulthood and puberty and all that. Big Head talks about, it tries its best with its quite ugly art style to talk about anatomy and the very real changes that teenagers have to go through. But to be honest, and that's just, again, that could be for one specific sort of group, but again, when it comes to people who really feel as if the reality of the world and how harsh and cruel a place can be, maybe this is the only type of thing that they've got left to hold on to. Groups like Simple Plan, Green Day, Linkin Park, MCR. You know what? Again, you may not be the sort of group you may not be the demographic that MCR are aiming at. And you know what? That's fine. There are plenty of groups that technically aren't really aimed at people like me, like One Direction or Little Mix. Those sort of groups aren't really aimed for people like me. Because, you know what, MCR really is a sort of group that's really aimed for me. Sort of and it wasn't just when I was 12, 13 when I first started going through this. It's literally been through the last, almost the entirety of the last 10 years, for all the good times and all the bad times. There's been groups that haven't really so much I want to say wipe my arse, but help me come to terms with the fact that there are very real problems that people all over the world face that I could be going through right now, and there's nothing to be ashamed of for thinking these things or for feeling this way. In fact, you know what? It's very, very admirable to be honest about these things at all. And the more you know what I absolutely have grown to hate over the last couple of years, and I'm going to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, is the people that say that we should not be talking about history. We should not be talking about things like, World War One or World War Two, when we should not have, days of remembrance, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. I hear that we shouldn't be having all of these things. And you know what I keep thinking about those things, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to tell you exactly what I think, ladies and gentlemen, about those sort of things, about even certain YouTube channels who say that they don't want to talk about stuff that's happened in history because it's going to demonetize their videos or stuff like that. And true, maybe if it's a video you spend extensive amount of time researching or trying to get put together, but the thing is this. Those who why do you want to be so far as to deny history or to deny what has happened? Because how do you think we learn, ladies and gentlemen? How do you think we learn from all the mistakes we made? Because they're documented in history and in memory. If we remember exactly where we went wrong, then maybe that's really is the first time to try to do something right, or trying to change ourselves, or try to better ourselves. If we learn through our mistake, it sounds so rudimentarily basic, but it's something I kind of wanted to say for a while anyway. It's that, why shouldn't we not know our history? Why shouldn't we know where we came from, where we're going, and what's going to become of all of us? Because, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, there's no doubt numerous people throughout history who said they don't feel okay, or they feel like their life is so unsatisfactory that they feel as if like they would be better off this earth than on it. Think about how many people just thought they're just attention seeking. They don't really mean this, and then they're gone. And you're never going to see them again. And I know fine well, again, this isn't something that technically can be enforced, because people are going to act however they choose, because this is the real world. So, just calling for people to be more considerate towards one another it does not seem like a very, very difficult thing to do, but it's not so much that you should try, but also there are people out there in this world who could do with, their days be going a little better. Just like MCR, because again, like I said in the beginning, it's almost like this entire song, Head First for Halos, is almost people coming to terms with the fact that how they're feeling, or presenting this idea that sometimes it's okay to feel this sad, because now that you've admitted there's a problem, we can work on fixing it. This is only really a rough idea, and there could be some very obvious objections to what I'm saying, but it's a beginning anyway, and there's always a beginning to solving a problem, and I reckon it's about as good as any, if you ask me. What do you guys reckon? Because again, if this sort of song isn't for you, then you're probably not gonna like MCR, because they've been doing this for nearly 20 years at this point, and I've just about loved them every single step of the way. And also, yes, if you are a key fan, if you watch like Netflix or any stuff like that, and you've ever seen a show called Umbrella Academy, is that it was based on the Dark Horse graphic novel by Gerard Way of MCR. Now you know. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reaction video. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of Head First for Halos by My Chemical Romance. Please also make sure to also like and subscribe to get daily notifications when my videos come out. And I hope to see all of you guys again in the next reaction video. Take care. Bye bye for now.